Good morning, world of YouTube. Back with you in the workshop here for another video. Let me kind of explain something else that I try to do from time to time. Is I'll run across someone who, mainly a kid, who wants to play guitar but doesn't have an instrument, and mainly can't afford an instrument. You know, if the parents can't afford to buy an instrument for them, then what I do is I'll keep my eyes peeled and for stuff like this, which is just a really cheapy guitar, and I'll do what I can to get it playable and fix it up, and mainly it's just time for me. So here's what I've got on the bench today. It's just a Johnson acoustic guitar, very low end, low dollar guitar. And actually how I ended up with this, somebody picked it up at a yard sale and then just gave it to me. So that's how I ended up with this. And I've already checked, like, inside there's no loose braces or anything. I'm going to spend some time on this guitar, probably more than the guitar is worth, of course, if you were paying to get this done. But again, this is just my time, so I'm going to get this playable, and then I've got a couple of people in mind that might want to use this to learn how to play, and I try to get them back. So once somebody gets to the point where they decide, okay, I really like playing the guitar and all of that, so they're going to get a guitar and able to get a guitar of their own, then I try to get these back so I can do the same thing for someone else down the road. But I'm going to do several things to this. Number one, and which I've got you on this side over here today, we've got the bridge is lifting. So that's the first thing I'm going to work on. And then as part of that, let me just show you really quickly here. The neck angle is not good, which is, a sign of a really kind of low end. It's not horrible, but I mean, it is a sign of a lower end guitar. I mean, we are right at, if I run this ruler, this straight edge, we are right at the top. There's some lift back here where the bridge has lifted, so this may, when I re-glue this, it may pull down some and we may be okay, but I may have to just take, and I'm not going to do a neck reset on this guitar, but what I may have to do is I may just sand a little bit of the top of the bridge. I may sand it down a little bit so I can keep the action nice and low up in here. I've kind of rated the guitar part hoard, and I've come across, I've got some bone saddles here. I've got a couple of guitar nuts, some new bridge pins. These are in pretty bad shape, and so I'm gonna replace them, I think, with these. Some different tuners, and when I get to the tuner part of it, I'll reposition the camera and show you this. This is in really bad shape. Somebody tried to do some stuff there that's not all that great, so that'll be probably in a separate part there, and all of that. Today, right now, what I'm going to focus on is getting this bridge off of here. I'm going to take first, before I do anything, because most times what happens is, and it's usually on these inexpensive guitars, there's usually and I'm going to guess maybe 1/8 of an inch. We'll know for sure when I get the bridge off, but usually about 1/8 of an inch all the way around the outside. There's finish on there, so essentially what happens, you end up with an air gap for the glue, and it doesn't make for a very strong glue joint. So that's why they lift over time with the string pressure and stuff. So what I'm going to do, I've got this very sharp blade here. Can you see that in the video? Yeah. But I'm going to score a line through the finish here, and then once this is off, we'll clean all of that out. An exact outline of this bridge will clean out. When we go to glue it back on, it'll be right up against the wood of the top of the guitar. And that way you've got wood to wood contact, and it's a very strong, becomes a very strong joint at that point. So let me go ahead and do this. And while the iron is heating up, I've got some palette knives and stuff here, and we're going to go ahead and get this bridge off of here and get it re-glued. Okay, I got that done there. Okay, back with you here. Had to pause you there. I wasn't as prepared as I thought I was to get this going. I've got a piece of cardboard, got the rough shape of the bridge cut out in it. That's kind of something that it protects a lot of the heat from getting on the rest of the guitar. And I usually just start and get I've got the iron on about as hot as it'll go. And I just let it sit on there for a minute. Heat things up a little bit, and then at the same time can kind of go under here and heat up the palette knife. Heating up the knife really helps getting under the edge. And what you do with the heat, as long as it's a wood glue, which most times it is, as long as it's a wood type glue, heat will melt it, separate the glue. So we'll kind of let this do its thing for a minute. And heating the top of the bridge again just helps transfer some of that heat down through there. And then as I go along, we'll see how we're doing here. As I go along, I'll just get the knife heated up, and then start getting under here. And I usually start on the back side because that's where it lifts. And I don't know if you can see I'm sure you can on the camera, that we're starting to get under that corner there pretty easily. So it doesn't look like this one's going to fight us too much. Of course, you never know. But what you don't want to do is put downward pressure. You want to try to push as you're going. You want to cut through the glue kind of that way as you're going around, because you don't want to have to do a lot of fixing. You don't want to get a lot of tear out basically from the wood underneath. You want to just separate the two, and the smoother that you can do it. Had a little finish that I got up underneath there. And again, I'm not extremely worried about this guy because it's not a high dollar instrument, so I am not really worried about the looks of it at all. But I don't want to do more damage than I need to to get things separated. So again, I'm back to my iron, and I think the iron's probably off to the side and you can't see that, but basically what I'm doing, let me kind of show you here, just taking the knife and heating it through, and it really, these little thin metal palette knives heat up very, very quickly, so I recommend that you be careful, number one, not to touch it because it will burn you. But just hold it on there for a few seconds, and then I can just keep working my way through here. And then once I get some good separation, which I've already got there, you can see that, I'll switch to a different palette knife. I kind of like this one. It's thin, and but it has more area, and it's rounded on the end, so it has a less tendency to dig in. So again, heating it up, of course, really helps. And this does take a little bit of time. Again, you don't want to do more damage for stuff that you have to fix. So if I tear a lot of wood up underneath, it's just more that I'll have to fix down the road. And that it's just not what I'm looking to do. I don't want to do, I want to make the thing playable, but I don't want to cause myself a lot more work than I have to. There we go. Do have a little bit of tear out, but not bad. Not bad. You can see if I can zoom you in here. It's really not bad. Palette knife dug in a little bit. I'll take these location pins out and definitely a plywood top, but I can re-glue all of this, and I'll do that in the next part. Like I said, I need to take off. I've got an errand I need to run. My wife just reminded me about that, so I'm going to get those location pins out, or at least get them down to the surface here, because I don't need those. But I need to pause you for a little bit, run out and run an errand, and we'll pick this project up later. So be right back with you. All right, welcome back. It's again just been a few seconds. Your time been quite a while. My time ended up getting called away, as I mentioned, and never got back to this yesterday. So instead of being Sunday again, now it's Monday morning. And let me just show you what I've been dealing with. I've been cleaning this up. You can see I got a couple of spots here that I'll just touch those. I've got some amber colored dye, and I'll just touch that over, and that'll blend back in, and you won't see that. But those two spots kind of tore out when I took off the bridge. What I've been doing is off camera, you can kind of see the outline of the bridge, and I left this one little spot right here, and you can see how much. Remember, the very first thing I did is I took a sharp blade and I scored all the way around there, and I can see the line. I'm not sure you can, but my score line is right there, and there's finish underneath where the bridge was glued, and so it created airspace in the wood glue. And if you know anything about wood glue and all that, if you have airspace, it weakens the joint. So I just thought I would show you that. I'm going to put you back on the tripod, clean that little corner up, and then you can see also, while I got you handheld, those couple of spots right there that kind of pulled up a little bit. Those aren't a problem. I'm going to get glue underneath all that, and we glue this back up, and it'll fix all of that. The other thing that I did is I leveled off these locating posts because we won't need that when we go back on. Let me put you back on the tripod. All right, got you back on the tripod there, and I'm trying to zoom in. The lights really, the bright shop lights kind of giving me problems with the focus, but I just take combination. I've got some small chisels and all of that, and you just kind of have to do what you need to do to get stuff cleaned up in here. And what you want is all the old glue off, and then this finish around the edge. I showed you that. I just carefully, of course, where I scored, helps it break off. So it the finish down through here, as you're kind of working it out there, it'll chip off at that score line, which is kind of the point of doing it, is you want a nice tight fit around there. And I'm probably blocking you, and I apologize for that. Being right-handed, I need to work that way. And I don't like to go exactly with the grain because I don't like to get a lot of tear out in the grain, but let's see if I can do this so maybe so you can see a little bit. It just takes a lot of time to clean it up. Once we glue it back on, it'll be structurally sound and won't have to worry about it pulling up again. All right, let me bring you back, kind of give you an update what I've done here. And I've got this all cleaned out now. I've got the bridge cleaned off the bottom side, cleaned all the glue and stuff off of that, so that feels really, really good. And this fits in here once it gets located. That is a really nice fit in there. Wood to wood contact. I've got some clamps that go on there, and we're going to glue this back together and let it sit with the clamps on it. I like to let them sit for 24 hours. That's probably a bit overkill. The Tight Bond says to clamp it for 30 minutes and not stress it for 24, but I usually clamp it for 24. And what I usually do is I take these leather pads that I have and I'll put on top, and then put a block of some sort on top of that, and then clamp it. And then I don't have to worry about marking up the top of the bridge either. I know we're going to take a little bit off of this to kind of get this string action where it needs to be, but I want to have control over that kind of stuff. So I'm going to grab some of these leather pads out of here, and again, just to let you know, these are just pieces of an old belt that people ask, how do you just get leather? What I've done is, just as I replace a belt, I don't throw it away. I just bring it up here and I cut it into strips, whatever size strips that I need, and use it that way. So the other thing I'm going to get is a couple of pieces of wood. And my clamps and the glue and all of that. I've got these 6-inch clamps that work really well. Or actually, they're 5 or 6, I think. What does it say? Oh, it says 5-inch on there. These work really well. They go in and they give me plenty of, they're this deep throat clamps, 5-inch, and I have 3 of those that I use. So I'm going to grab those down from the clamp hoard. You can always need lots of ways to clamp stuff, and even have to get creative sometimes in clamping. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the workshop. And I figured I needed to give you kind of an update, and I'll show you the guitar in just a second. But what happened, sometimes the technology is just smarter than me, I guess. But what happened is I started editing some of the video for this guitar, this Johnson, this acoustic guitar that I'm working on, and when I moved the files to the computer, somehow one is missing, and so you don't get to see the glue up of the bridge. But I think what I'm going to do is I'll just maybe bring you handheld and or flip you around. I got you on the tripod now. I'll flip you around and let you see, and then kind of explain to you what I did. I was kind of hoping that you'd be able to see the glue up and all of that, but that's the update that I have. My apologies for losing that part of the video, but let's get on with this guitar. So give me just a second. I'll reposition you and bring you back in. Got you repositioned there, and it's actually been a couple of days. And again, I'm sorry for the lost footage. I had recorded gluing and clamping and all of that. So let me, and I've been away from this for a couple of days too. Again, this is not what I do to make my living. So, you know, work and family and other things take priority over all of this. So, anyway, just kind of explain to you. Here are the clamps that I used. They're 5-inch. I think I might have shown these in an earlier part. I don't remember from the editing that I've done already. But this is typically my clamp up here. These 5-inch deep throat clamps work perfect to do this and get the right amount of pressure. And what I ended up doing is putting the bridge on. Of course, I glued it. Remember those pieces that were pulled up? I got glue underneath all of that and glued that all back together at one time. So got that all clamped down, cleaned up all of the glue squeeze out, and I always do that right away. You can kind of wait a little bit, but I never do. I just clean it up right away, and it's a little bit of a mess, of course, because of the glue squeeze out, but I find it easier in the long run to just go ahead and clean it up. So let me take these clamps off here. And then I'll show you the final product. I think we ended up pretty good. Again, I use these leather pads and the blocks just to kind of protect everything. I don't want any more damage. Don't want to create any more damage to have to fix down the road. And so yeah, that turned out really good. I got a little bit of glue. Looks like it's squeezed out, but it will come right off the finish, so that's not a big deal. We're going to be doing some sanding on this bridge anyway. Let me kind of explain to you that whole thing, because I did see the, let me see how you are in the camera here. You can see, remember those two little spots that were torn out where the finish, you can, let me get you in as close as I can there. I touched those up with some dye, and you can't see the tear out spots. You can kind of see this. There's some discoloration up in there. That's just where I was cleaning up the glue and all of that, but I'll just use some really light sandpaper and that'll clean right up. But I'm going to zoom back out here because I don't think I did a very good job excuse me, of explaining to you the issue with the neck angle, and I kind of want to do that. So hang on, I'm going to try to move you here a little bit without giving you too bad of a ride here. Let's see, can try to give you more of a straight on view and hopefully without blocking you. So alright, here's that. Now let me get back around here again, try to do this without blocking your view. Find my straight edge. I'm going to block you for just a second. I apologize for that. Alright, got my straight edge, and I'm going to put the straight edge on the fretboard, and I usually check like down the middle, and ideally what you want to see is about 1/8 of an inch or so clearance as the straight edge comes down and goes over the bridge. And actually it looks like with the glue up we may have gained some of that back. This was actually touching before I redid this bridge, so it looks like we may have gained enough back. I may not even have to do anything. I may put the strings on it first and see how it is. Alright, so I think we ended up in good shape with that. Let me see. I think I'm going to bring you handheld. So give me just a second here. Okay, have you handheld. Try not to bounce you a whole lot. But again, just wanted to kind of give you an update. You can see, if you look really close, maybe I can see them if I get really close, but these two spots back here, there's one there and one there, and we're under the super bright shop light, so once you get out from underneath the shop light, you're not going to see those. I just touched them up with some amber colored dye, and it just blends right back in. So this guitar is beat up enough that it doesn't really matter anyway. So I think that's probably going to end this part of the video right there. And again, I'm sorry I lost that part of actually doing the glue up on this, but you saw this be all cleaned out, and we got wood to wood contact. I cleaned off the bottom of the bridge, the top of the guitar, and got it clamped really well. So that should be for the life of this guitar, that's going to be a permanent fix. And I think what I'm going to do in the next part is I'm going to do another part of this video and move working up here. And I've also got, I've taken my little metal piece that I use, and we've got frets that are not level, of course, and all of that. So I don't know how much of it I will record, but I'm probably going to, again, this is just time for me. I know this guitar is not worth putting all this into, but it's just time for me. So I'm going to do probably a fret leveling and recrowning just so I can get the action nice and low. I'm going to check the condition of this nut, and if that needs to be replaced, I have one for that. And I've ordered, I mentioned I was going to go down and try to find washers and stuff. I was not able to do that, so I jumped on in the Amazon and I ordered a cheapy, a $10 set of tuners. I'm going to stick those on there. That'll be good enough for what this is going to be used for. So I think that's about it for this part. Thanks for following along and being in the workshop this morning, and I'll bring you along for the next part of the video. See you soon.